I am so damn tired. I walked. This map is destroyed. Whatever this is, I walked. Actually, I only walked like a little part of it, but it kicked my ass today. I live at sea level. I'm not used to this mountain stuff. Anyway, so you heard this morning about my eventful night, and that officer, Officer Cake, was something of an anomaly because I've since asked some of the officers on this shift where I can park overnight, and they're like, you need to be at a campground. And I get it. What's gone on here is that Bar Harbor is overrun with tourists, and there's van people and RVs everywhere who don't want to pay, understandably, $30 to be smacked up next to somebody else at a campground. You have to pay $30 just to get in the park, no matter if you are staying for 1 day or 7. That's bullshit. So I wasn't going to stay here that long, but now that I've paid to get into all this, I feel like I should. Anywho, I walked all over. I'm thoroughly exhausted, so I'm going to go back up into the mountains to see if I can shoot some nighttime photos. And then, unfortunately, it's like a 30-minute drive to get to the nearest Walmart. And some of the other van people who I've met, who I had my blue headband on, I only own like a couple pieces of clothing and I wear them over and over again. I'm not very fashion forward. I just don't care. They recognized me with the headband and obviously the flaming red fire-breathing dragon hair. So we all talked, and they were like, yeah, we have to drive 30 minutes out of town just to park at night. Just stupid. Stupid. Anyway, behind the scenes of Hoover's Dairy. If you saw that, I published that this morning. You know, the big surprise there was that, and I know this from working in TV news, is that typically any kind of food producing operation, you can't get anywhere near with the camera. Even getting into restaurants is hard. So it's really tough. So I went up to the main, where the restaurant is, where the ice cream bar is, and I kind of did like I just want to shoot a couple, and they were like, oh yeah, just go back into the dairy's back there, go back there. And I wandered right up into this dairy and walked all around with Judy, who is like the grandma and runs that place. And they were like, yeah, shoot whatever you want, just have at it. And I did do an interview with the grandson. He was 20 years old, and unfortunately, not the best interview. Young people, it's really hard to get them. They kind of clam up. Even adults do. So I didn't end up using a whole lot of that. But he did an interview, and then like the little grandkids were just dragging me all around. They wanted to show me this and show me that. And I was like, this is not how this usually goes. So that was a real treat. And then as I was leaving, I said, because none of the machines were on, because it was later in the day. And they said, well, we're going to be bottling tomorrow. We're doing whole milk tomorrow. And I said, well, can I come? And they were like, oh, yeah, sure. That never happens. That never happens. Are you allowed to have a camera in a bottling facility or like any kind of food? So I showed up, and like everyone was working, and I just tried to stay out of their way and got this old machinery, and it was so loud back there because it's the glass bottles clanking up against one another. But they were wonderful. And then there was the big anomaly, the big anomaly, which is, where the hell are the cows? Because they used to have cows there, and they said that it's harder and harder for them to keep up with the milk production and also have to milk the cows. So what happens is that they partner with these small independent farmers in that area of New York, and there's a guy who has a job I would never want. In the middle of the night, he drives around to all the dairy farms and hooks what looks like a fuel tank up to their, milk tanks, and all night long he goes and collects this milk. And then he brings it to Hoover's by the time the sun is coming up. And as he's coming in, those old school milk delivery trucks are going out, and they've got the young grandkids, the like 20-year-old grandkids, up at 4:30 in the morning delivering that milk. Can you imagine upstate New York delivering milk at 4:30 in the morning when they've got like 5 feet of snow and it's 2 degrees? No, I can't. I give them so much credit. It's good to teach your kids to work. It's very good. So, but there were no cows on the dairy, and they had a really hard time linking me up to one of the farmers because there are fewer and fewer farmers because the farmers are all selling their land to developers because it's back-breaking hard work and not a lot of money, agriculture. And we just couldn't figure it out. And I don't think because they have it delivered, they necessarily know each of the farmers that all pool their milk to get to Hoover's. So we had a hell of a time, and we spent 2 days trying to find a farmer. And finally, she found me a name. And then here's the big, this should have never happened moment is you can't bring a camera on a farm. They like are so strict about that because they get burned. Burned is the wrong word. A lot of times animal activists will come onto farms trying to shoot video. I give them credit that in some cases they genuinely capture abuse and bring it to light, and that's great. But many of these people do not understand how agriculture actually works, and so they shoot video without context, and then they frame it in a way that makes it look like the farmer's a demon, and that's not fair. That's not journalism. That's you just being an asshole. So you typically cannot get anywhere near a farmer. So I just thought, well, what the hell? I drove over to this farm, and there's huge cows are in there all getting milked, and around the corner comes this 71-year-old man with his baseball hat and his flannel shirt and his jeans and his boots, and I went in for my whole spiel, and I'm totally ready to be rejected, like this is just how this goes. And he said his name was Nelson, and I said, you know, the Hoovers and the thing, and I want to get some video of the cows, and I'm like almost backing up like to get in the van just because I've done this so many times in news, you never get in. And he said, well, I gotta go repair a tractor, so just, get whatever video you need, and, I'll be back later. And Nelson took off, and I was like in the barn with these Holsteins, and I had a blast. I was kissing them and letting them tell them how pretty they were. And anyway, that story becomes a much bigger story, which is the next part. But it was just so fantastic in so many ways because in news, where you kind of have like a right to be in some places with your camera, this stuff doesn't happen. And they were so warm and welcoming, and I'm not like a big milk drinker, but I learned a lot about the process, and I left like with a whole new respect for milk, what it takes to make it, and just how much has to go on just to get a couple bottles on the shelf. And then think of how many bottles are in your grocery store, and then how many bottles are in your town, and like it's a huge operation, and we are losing dairy farmers. So, yeah, I have all the respect in the world for them. And everyone in that town swears that milk in a glass is way better than it is in a bottle. Swears. Because it doesn't take on any kind of artificial flavoring. So, I hope you'll, if you're ever in that area of New York, stop by at Hoover's. And the grandkids are a riot. And they've got the best damn ice cream and milk in the world. And I fell in love with those people. And I'm not a people person. It's crazy. Although if you put cows in the mix, I tend to get like really like soft and squishy and like friendly and approachable. Anywho, I'm gonna go back up into the park that I spent $30 effing to be there and try to get some shots and rest my weary feet because I'm about to have a birthday, which means how many more good years do I have left, really? Anywho, I'll talk to y'all later.